children of the forest made these.
When?
A very long time ago.
What's the deal, my people? You know what it is, Don Tony Teflon, and I'm back at you another one. And in this video series, Game of Thrones, things you didn't notice, I'm going to point out all those things you didn't notice. And we are going to start off with the symbols of Game of Thrones. And this is going to be at least a 3 to 4 part series. So make sure that you subscribe and hit that bell so you can be notified when I upload the next part of this video series. Now, people might try to say that these symbols do not appear in the books, and they are correct, and therefore they do not have any meaning. But because they are in the show and they are used multiple times in the show, I do believe that these symbols do have meaning. And because George R. R. Martin himself worked on the show in the early part of the show, and he helped probably develop some of these symbols, I do believe that they have merit, and we can use these symbols to predict the ending of Game of Thrones. In our last video, we tackled the sign that Mance Rayder found at the Fist of the First Men. All of the horses that were chopped up, mutilated, and scrolled out into a symbol. And I gave you exactly what I thought this symbol meant, and a lot of you agreed with me in the comment section. So if you want to know what I thought that symbol was, please check out the last video we just did about this symbol and tell me what you thought about that symbol. And as always, in this video, I'm going to take a couple of questions that were asked from the last video and put them in this video. And if you want your question answered on the next video, all you gotta do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video right here, and you have a chance for me to read your comment on my next signs video. And that takes us to the next sign that we will be deciphering in this video, so let's get right to it.
Because the enemy is real. It's always been real.
Now, when you first seen this picture, it seems obvious what it is. But does this picture hold a darker, deeper meaning? So let's dig and see if we can figure that out. Now, we first hear about the White Walkers in the Long Night. Now, does this picture represent the Long Night? We hear about the Long Night from Old Nan when she tells this story to Bran.
Oh, my sweet summer child, what do you know of fear? Fear is for the winter, my little lord, when the snow falls 100 feet deep and the wind ice comes howling out of the north, and the sun hides its face for years at a time, and little children are born and live and die, all in darkness, while the direwolves grow gaunt and hungry, and when the White Walkers move through the woods. Thousands and thousands of years ago, a winter fell that was so cold and hard and endless beyond all memory of man. There came a night that lasted a generation, and kings shivered and died in their castle. Women smothered their children rather than see them starve, and cried and felt their tears on cheeks. In that darkness, the others came. They were old things, dead things that hated iron, and every creature with hot blood in its veins. They swept over holdfasts and cities and kingdoms, felled heroes and armies by the score, riding pale horses. All the swords of men could not stay their advance, and even the maidens found no pity. They fed their dead servants on the flesh of human children.
Now, this Long Night seems much more brutal than the one we have seen in the show. I'm just saying. But is this the Long Night that is depicted in this photo? Is that what this photo is telling us? It's trying to remind us of that particular long night. And I would have to say no. And there's one good reason why I have to say no. In the first Long Night, the battle with the White Walkers, there was no Night's King. The Night's King did not exist. So for that reason, I have to say that there's no way that this could be that depiction. According to legend, the Night's King lived during the Age of Heroes, not long after the war was completed. He was a fearless warrior named 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Later, he fell in love with a woman with a skin as white as the moon and eyes blue like the stars. He chased her, and he loved her, though her skin was cold as ice. And when he gave her his seed, he gave her his soul as well. Night's King brought her back to the Knight's Fort, and after their unholy union, he declared himself king, and her his queen, and ruled the Night Fort as his own castle for over 13 years. It wasn't until Brandon the Breaker, the King of Winter, and Joramun, the King Beyond the Wall, joined forces that the Night's King was brought down and the Night's Watch freed. After his fall, when it was discovered that the Night's King had been making sacrifices to the others, all records of him were destroyed, and his very name was forbidden and forgotten. Now that is the story of the Night's King. Now, is this a picture of the Night's King? It seems that it could be when you look at what the guy is holding in his hand, his boy, the spear. It seems like the same spear that he handed the Night's King that he used to take down the dragon. Maybe they had those weapons in the past, because it seems like this can't be that Night King. The Night's King that we were shown in the show got held up against a tree, stabbed in the chest by the children of the forest, and then became a White Walker. The Night's King that we heard this story about did not seem to go down that way. It seems he was turned into the White Walker when he had sex with the female White Walker. So it seems like we're dealing with two different Night's King. One Night's King and one NIGHT''S King. That's the way it seems to be going down. But is there a possibility that not just two Night Kings we're dealing with, but three? But before I get to that, as promised, I'm going to read a couple of these comments that were left in my last video. So let's knock that out the park. Brian G says, Dany Flint is buried in the crypts of Winterfell. She is the OG Night Queen. Cha! Note the Dany Flint and Daenerys Dany Targaryen double. Cha! Well, thank you for that. I really like this comment that you left. For those who don't know who Dany Flint is, here's a quick background on Dany Flint. Dany Flint was a woman who dressed up as a man and joined the Night's Watch. When she was discovered for being a woman, she was raped and murdered at the Night Fort. Now, nobody knows why the brothers were driven to these extremes, not just to rape her, but to murder her, and there's a lot of mystery on it. So is Dany Flint now in the crypts of Winterfell? And she was the original Night Queen. She came back, and that is one who turned the Stark Lord Commander into the Night's King. It's quite possible. That sounds really good. I have a lot of thoughts about Dany Flint, and if you want to know, please put it in the comment section that you want me to make a video on it, and I will make a video on Dany Flint. But thank you, and that is a great theory you came up with. Next question is from quote, and quote asks, Dany ends up Night's Queen, taking care of the children. Now, we shall see about that, punch quote. Thank you for your comment. Now, pick this comment because it kind of ties to the comment we just had. Now, the comment we just had with Dany Flint, he was saying that Dany Flint is somehow related to Daenerys Targaryen because of the name. And now we have a comment saying that Dany could be the Night's Queen. Now, will this Dany become the new Night's Queen? That is a very popular theory. A lot of people think Daenerys will become the Night's Queen. I do not think Daenerys will become the Night's Queen. I think she has another role to play. I have another video coming out later this week about Daenerys and that role she does have to play. So make sure you come back and check me out later this week for that. Thank you for your comments, and again, if you want your comments on the next video, all you got to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment and thumbs up the video. Not too much to ask for. Now, right when we left off, I told you that there could be a possibility of 3 Nights Kings. And how did I form this conclusion? Let's go over it. First, we know this is not a picture of the Long Night, the original attack from the White Walkers. Why? Because we know that there was no Nights King, and we see a Nights King depicted here. Now, this is not the Nights King that we see currently in the show. Why? Because this Night King has a beard. The other Night King we see in the show does not have a beard. So is this a possibility of being the original Night King that was the 13th Lord Commander? I don't think it's him either. Why? Because in this same cave we see Targaryen symbols. The original Night King was the 13th Lord Commander who came after the Long Night, and they said he reigned shortly after the wall was built. After that we get the rise of Valyria. Targaryens don't come over here until sometime after that. So I don't think it's this original Nights King either. But who can it be? When we look at the story of the Nights King falling in love with a woman, chasing her, he was a Stark, he was the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. When we put all that together, we look at this symbol, we see that this guy has a beard. We have to know that the children of the forest, or whoever wrote these symbols, could see all the way into the future. And this may not be one of those Night Kings. This could be the future Night King. There may be a pact that has to be signed that someone may have to take up the mantle of the Night's King. And this person may be Jon Snow. But you tell me what you think about that in the comment section. And yes, I have further proof that points to this, but it deals with the next sign. So make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, so you can be notified when I upload the next part to this symbols series. And if you like the way I do this, please thumbs up this, please spread this across the realm, and please subscribe. And until next time, you know who it is. Peace and stay sexy.